Religious tolerance from the perspective of an anthropology student. The reason there is a people of God is that we have the privilege of partnering with Him in the redemption of the world, said author and speaker Reggie McNeil. He also warned, getting caught up in church activities is like being nibbled to death by toothless piranha. If I had to trace my nearly obsessive journaling habit to one point in time, it would begin at the Present Future Seminar, listening to McNeil pull cogs from the religion machine, examine them one by one, and drop them at the feet of his church leadership audience. And it was very apparent to us, the staff of a church, that we had no idea what to do with the pieces and parts. I began journaling about the individual and collective efforts of church members and leadership, recording victories and setbacks, and tracking our overall progress in discovering and implementing what we believe to be God's work. Each time I completed a spiral notebook and read its contents, one theme repeatedly surfaced. Sadly, that theme consisted of a glaring disconnect between basic scriptural concepts and the practical application of those concepts in the teaching and behavior of the leadership and membership of the institution.
Loved by the numbers, you're losing life's wonder.
There seemed to be two organizations in one, spiritual and practical, that were actually working against each other, and in some cases doing more harm than good in the lives of those involved. Eventually, I chose to speak out about the double standard. The subsequent interaction between me and the leadership and other members of the institution demonstrates how religious intolerance is systematically practiced and even encouraged by those who profess to value and protect religious tolerance. Excerpt from blog, December 8, 2008. This is not how Jesus has revealed himself to us, yet this is what the church insists we believe. If being accepted by the church means agreeing to continue pretending the emperor is wearing clothes, then no thank you. I'd rather be a disciple of the Good Shepherd than a student of religious tradition. Excerpt from blog, March 30th, 2009. Anointed to office of prophet. That's what happened to me on Sunday. Don't bother asking me to explain it in any satisfactory manner, because my response was, is there a book for this? As a Christian, I always had serious doubts about the doctrine of eternal torment. I held to the doctrine of annihilation, although it also troubled me. I did not speak about these things with other Christians, because I was unable to refute scriptures that seemed to clearly indicate both doctrines. After spending about 2 years studying church history, I began to question the validity of some of my study materials. I found some obvious distortions of the truth and evidence of the purposeful suppression of important information in books, concordances, and Bible dictionaries upon which I had been relying for years from my personal library. And then, armed with unbiased eyes, I read the scriptures and saw in them concepts that I had never seen before. I realized that by taking into account the way the language was used in the culture and context in which it was written, that particular key words had been repeatedly misinterpreted and in some cases mistranslated. Using an anthropological approach to translation is necessary in order to avoid butchering the meaning by taking a strictly literary approach, which may ignore the cultural context in which the texts were written. I naively thought if I explained to my pastor and boss what I had learned, that he too would take the time to study and examine all the evidence. He said he would give it some thought, but a few months later, he said he did not have time, and that the concept was shelved indefinitely. After almost a year of keeping this information to myself, I began to feel like I was doing something wrong. I realized that many of the problems that Christian denominations have with each other, such as the doctrines of predestination, election, the age of accountability, salvation of mentally handicapped, the question of what happens to people who've never heard the name of Jesus, etc., are based on fear due to the doctrine of eternal torment. I finally decided that people ought to be made aware of the deception that had been at work in the institutional church for over 1,500 years. I began writing blogs about these ideas on MySpace so that my friends could read them and come to their own conclusions. Within a couple of days, I received 2 confrontational emails from a person who attended the church, and then I was called into the pastor's office and warned, "Guard your words." Excerpt from blog, May 5th, 2009. This blog is basically a loose analogy of church history from around 300 to 500 years after Christ to present day. There is a question that is not being asked, a problem that is not being addressed, a solution that is not being sought out. Sometimes controversy is a good thing. Sometimes there must be open discussion. Studies of sense-making in linguistic anthropology. In conversational groups, turn-taking is diagnostic of good sense-making. However, in a chain-of-command group conversation, the underlying model of dictator-audience emerges. There are other potential diagnostics as well. Consider the adjacency pair couplets found in every language like, "How are you doing?" and "Just fine, thanks." If someone uses the first part of an adjacency pair, then someone else is required to perform the second part. If they don't, the failure is interpreted as a breach, an expression of bad intentions. Particularly important here is the question-answer adjacency pair. If someone asks a question, it sets up a linguistic imbalance that demands to be restored with an answer. But who is asking the question? The same person, over and over again? Perhaps many are talking during a sense-making session, so it sounds like multiple tellers. But if the same person is always asking a question, he or she is limiting and directing what it is the next person can say. The question-answer adjacency pairs, like turn-taking, control the topic, and control over topic is control over how and in what terms sense will be made.